Anu Nation is home to the Anu spiritual order founded by Chief Jegna Haru Yuya Asan Anu. Some of the components of Anu Nation are Anu Life Global Ministries, Enlightenment and Transformation, Sadulu House, and Osiris Life Spiritual Services. SaduluHouse.com is the school component of Anu Nation, where spiritual empowerment through education and training is emphasized. One way that is accomplished is through our monthly webinars. Our webinars are packed with foundational information, rituals, and live instruction to empower your spiritual work. At SaduluHouse.com, you can view our diverse list of topics for this year that range from meditation to sex magic. And you can also register for any of the webinars at your convenience, sign up for our introductory Orisha class, schedule a spiritual reading, and sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training course. Enlightenment and Transformation is the media component of Anu Nation. Here, you can view all of our archived shows from over the years to our current segments. They include Chief Speaks, Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursdays, and Foundational Fridays. You can also visit us on our YouTube channels. They are Enlightenment and Transformation, Orisha Yoruba, and Anu Nation. Osiris Life Spiritual Services is for those who are ready to take the necessary actions to bring your life into holistic balance. Here we offer consistent monthly one-on-one coaching, solutions that are tailored just for you, practical hands-on self-development techniques that will accompany your monthly readings, and customized practical strategies designed for you that guarantee positive results. Simply choose the package that best fits your needs. And last but not least, AlphaOmegaStore.com. The Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica where we offer divination tools, herbs and incense, DVDs, books, and other hard-to-find ritual items. You can also get our best-selling foundational book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Other great works from Anu Nation are Shrine and Altar, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, and Natural Hair for Young Women. All great books to assist you on your journey. To find out more on how to get involved with Anu Nation, visit our websites and YouTube channels and be sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter. Peace, everybody. Welcome back to Community Radio. I'm your host, Kim, and today is Thursday. So this will be the last show of this strong. And I just want to say peace to everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We get a lot of really good feedback from you all about the show, and I just want to say I appreciate it. Also, I wanted to thank all of you all who can't get to the call because you're working. Perfectly understandable. So I know we have a lot of listeners that are unable to participate sometimes. Today, like I said, there is no specific topic, but sometimes I just kind of think about certain things. I wanted to give the number really quick. 347-945-7680 is the number to call. And if you would like to make a comment, you can just press 1 and I'll make sure I bring you in. On Tuesday, we had a really, really good discussion about just Black men and Black women in the relationship between us and how it's deteriorated, why it happened. And one of the points that I wanted to bring out on Tuesday, which we talked about a little bit, was sometimes our anger may be misplaced. So we spoke about, the going Black men and Black women going their own way movement and things like that, and how we have kind of gotten to this place where we really don't, where we're kind of fed up with each other, and our relationship status with each other is not so great. So as I was thinking about that, I said, you know what, this is a much deeper problem. And it got me to thinking, and one of the things that prompted those thoughts was I was listening to an interview that Sister Betty Shabazz did, and she was speaking about she had reviewed the Boys in the Hood movie, and she was speaking about the language and the behavior of the people in that movie. And she was saying that, usually she doesn't watch stuff like that. She'll turn it off. But she watched it and got through it, and she came to the conclusion that we have to take some of the responsibility for that type of behavior, the type of language that was used in the movie. And that she noticed that it's similar to a lot of the inner city kids and young adults in certain cities. And so this is, it's not just centralized to one location. So she gave her testimony on it, and she came to the conclusion that, again, this is the result of neglect of our children, misuse of our children, and so forth. And she was saying how we needed to take personal responsibility for that. So I'm going to get into some more things that I thought about after I watched that interview. And we'll get back to it. Again, the number is 347-945-7680. And just press the number 1 to be heard. I'll be right back after a couple of commercials, and we'll get into this a little bit more. Have you ever felt like there is mischievous energy being directed towards your home? Did you know that by combining pine needles, cloves, cinnamon sticks, sage, quartz crystals, and violet water, that you can make a floor wash that will dispel those energies and provide protection? Quartz crystals are known for their clearing energy, but aside from reading about it in a book, how do we know this for sure? There are different techniques that you can use to unlock the powers of crystals for various uses. In Sadulu House's class-based webinar, Crystals, we discuss these techniques and also learn more about crystals, such as how spirits enter crystals, how to work with those spirits, and how crystals form. For more information, go to saduluhouse.com/products/crystals-the-class. Okay, welcome back. I just wanted to give you all a little bit of information about some of the services that we offer. We still get questions quite often in our emails about how to get more involved. And if you would like to get more involved or have a stronger connection to what we do in our community, just go to anewlifeglobal.org, and there's a form there under the Join Our Community tab where you can sign up and let us know how you want to get involved. We have a weekly Google Hangout for new female students that we have every Monday. And if you would like to be a part of that, you can, again, sign up on A New Life Global and make sure you specify what you would like to be a part of that call, and we'll get the information out to you. I also know that there is a men's group that is forming. I'm not sure if it's complete just yet, but when it's all put together, I'll make sure I get that information to you. If you would like to enroll in the spiritual training, a new spiritual training phase 1, you can go to saduluhouse.com. That is the class component of Our New Nation. So all the classes that we offer, including the ones that I do on different spiritual concepts, are located on saduluhouse.com. You can sign up for the newsletter at ournewNation.org so that you can kind of be in the know of any retreats or if Chief Yuya is coming to your city. If you would like to get a reading, you can go to askosiris.com and you can register there for a reading. You can also find this on any of the websites that we have. And I'd also like to encourage you to check us out on YouTube. We have several channels there. We have Our New Nation, and there's Enlightenment and Transformation. Enlightenment and Transformation is the media component of Our New Nation. So if you would like to check out all of the older shows from Thunderground Thursday, Foundational Friday, Masterminds Monday, A New Asafo, and older Chief Speak shows, you can go there and view some of those shows that you may have missed. There's a lot of information there and a lot of shows there. I think there are like over 400 shows now. And you can also find them here on Blog Talk Radio if you just type in enlightenment and transformation. So that is some of the information of how you can get more involved and what we're doing. So back to the conversation, I wanted to talk about, to kind of continue the conversation that we had on Monday, just about relationships between each other, specifically Black men and Black women. And after that conversation, a lot of callers were saying that we need to kind of start the conversation between each other to kind of, go through a healing process. And after I was thinking about this, and again, going back to the Betty Shabazz interview that I read, I noticed that this is a deeper problem. And I think it has more to do with a lot of self-hatred that we have. But I'm not speaking about the self-hatred of just, bleaching our skin or, straightening our hair, just the physical aesthetics. I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. On Tuesday's show, I kind of spoke on how the relationships between each other, like we kind of, hate each other and we're kind of getting fed up with each other. But the anger is misplaced. We kind of blame, women may blame the men may blame the women. But, as I was listening to some of the comments, I think it went back to maybe Black women as children kind of had bad relationships with other Black women. And the same may go for the men. We kind of carry this hurt with us as we grow into adults, and we don't really recognize the root of it. And so most of that probably comes from, just dealing with each other, men dealing with men and women dealing with women. And we kind of carry those hurt feelings and all those emotions and things that we went through into our adult relationships. But we also, have to kind of acknowledge those horrible, experiences we've had with our own people. And that kind of, again, sticks with us into adulthood. And I don't think that we've kind of healed from those experiences. And it is a form of self-hatred, but in the sense that, we don't like each other. We don't like Black people as a whole because of those experiences. Most of us, in our childhood, we only deal with the people in our community. Most of us went to, Black schools and lived in Black neighborhoods. And those are the experiences that we've had. And so I thought about it, and, it got me to thinking about some of the things that we do to each other within our own families and communities. For example, just the way we speak to each other is damaging, and I'm speaking of within our own families, within our own friendships and things like that. I remember Chief did a show where he was a guest on the show, and he spoke about verbal abuse before physical abuse. And so a lot of times women, go into this thing where they feel that they have been where they've been physically abused, but they don't talk about what led up to that physical abuse. And most of the time it's verbal abuse, and we don't realize what verbal abuse really is. Chief was saying in the show that simple things like, just telling your mate or your spouse to shut up and, saying that, you're not this and you're not that. Just the harsh tones that we use with each other and the harsh words that we use with each other is part of the verbal abuse. And we don't see it as abusive because, we see this as like just normal language, but it is abusive. And so prior to the physical abuse, we got to kind of think about all the things that led up to it. What was your contribution to it? Did you have a loving, relationship with this person? Did you have a loving home environment? Because it's rare that a Black man will just snap and just go off on a woman for no reason. Not saying that it doesn't happen, but it's pretty rare. And I don't think a lot of women realize some of the verbal abuse that leads up to that point. And, vice versa, men and, just women, men and women both. But I speak about women because most of the time you hear about physical abuse from women. And so a lot of these things, like I said, is a product of this kind of deeper self-hatred that we have. Not talking about, hair and skin color. It's just, the relationships that we have when we're younger with other Black people and with the Black people in our community that we kind of carry out. And, it kind of extends to, other examples are, we just treat people outside of our community a lot better than we do, in our own home. Some of those, examples may be, like we travel to other neighborhoods to kind of get a break from our own because we don't want to deal with Black people and we see it as better. I remember in the last show, Dietrich spoke on this, the language that we use, a cliche that we use, such as white ice is colder. And we just kind of think that everything outside of us is, much better. And so it made me think, why do we think those things are better? Why do we think, when we choose to take trips or vacations, we tend to go to non-melanated countries over, say Africa or something? We don't think about vacationing in Africa. We prefer to go to Europe or, some of these other places instead of, going to places where we are. And it's because, I think deep down, we really don't like being around other, Black people. Another example is, when we choose to celebrate something or if we want to, go out somewhere special, we would rather take our families or take our spouses to, just chain restaurants or, things like that instead of, over the African or the Black, restaurant. We don't see it as fancy, or we don't see it as, just not as good as other things. So there's a lot of things that we do that kind of show that we don't really like our own people. We don't even value awards or accomplishments among our own people. Something as simple as, and I hate to use this example, but it made me think about it, like BET Awards versus like the Grammys or something. You notice that a lot of artists, big, huge Black artists, when they get awards from Black award shows, they rarely show up. They always have someone accepting the award on their behalf, but they definitely, make sure they make it to the Grammys. So, and this goes down to just even community awards, when we have little celebrations for things, for people who have contributed to different programs or who work with our children in our communities. We show up in jeans and, our street clothes. We really don't value those awards. Even when, we go to college or something like that, it's like we just don't, when we go to college or when we, graduate and finally get our jobs, even your parents or your family see you working for a huge corporation better than working for, say, your own business or a Black-owned business. We just don't celebrate it. We don't brag about it. We'll say, oh, such and such is, working for Merck or working for, some huge corporation. They'll brag on that all day. But if you say, you work for yourself or you work for your family or you work for a Black-owned business, like that is completely ignored. It's not talked about. Or like in my example, when my cousin, I was having a conversation with my cousin, and I told her, what I do, as far as working for my family. She says, oh, yeah, that's cool, but, if that doesn't work out, then you can, get a real job, but at least you tried. And I just thought, wow, there it is again. It's like we don't value that. We don't brag about it. We don't talk about it. And it's really sad. And like I said, I think this speaks to a different form of self-hatred. Going back to how I was speaking on just how we speak to each other, and the language that we use. My daughter came home the other day, and she told me about an incident that happened in her classroom where she goes to a black school, and this girl in the class is a black female. How she kind of got in the face of this young boy, and she was just, kind of screaming on him, in his face, screaming on him, saying all types of things, and just kind of provoking him into a fight. And the boy was saying, you know what, you need to chill out. I'm not doing this with you. You're a girl. Just kind of get out of my face. He was trying to say things to make her stop, but of course, at that persistence, it made her, want to get even louder. And so eventually, I think she had touched the boy, or how you put your finger on somebody's forehead and just kind of push it or something. And, when it got to that point, this boy could have just completely overpowered her and knocked her out or something, but he just kind of pushed her out of the way, and then she fell. My daughter said she fell over 3 desks. And then, of course, after that, she got up. She was embarrassed. She pretended like she was really hurt. She couldn't believe this boy hit her. And they ended up, both ended up being punished for that. And so when her mother came to the school, of course, she was upset and irate, that a boy would do this to her and do this to her daughter and everything. But, as I was, as she was telling me the story, I was thinking, her behavior with this boy speaks to something much bigger. Obviously, this is the kind of language she hears at home and the type of relationship she sees her mother having with other men, for her to feel so comfortable to do that to another person, at school. And I just noticed that, if our children are doing it, they are seeing us do it. And again, it speaks to something much bigger about this self-hatred we have for each other, just the language we use, the way we treat each other. It really stems from how we deal with each other in our families, and it just extends out into the community, and it just made me think, can we take the pain that we've suffered at the hands of other Black people, as young adults that we kind of carry, can we take that and, still love Black people? And I wonder because, when getting into African systems and African spirituality, everybody's kind of into this now. Do we even think about that? Why are we doing this? Why are we so into it now? Is it because we have, a love for African people and a love for Black people? Or, is it something else? Can we acknowledge that pain and that hurt that we've suffered at the hands of other Black people and still love each other? Or do we even know how to? And, how can we get over it and just kind of be a source of healing for each other and treat each other better? And it even goes down to, I remember just growing up and going to my friends' homes, in my household, how we will kind of neglect our own home. But as soon as company comes over, you scramble to clean up. Let me clean up, because you don't want people to think, or you really don't want certain people to see how you live. Or even when we go out in public, and we encounter people outside of our race, and we're a lot more docile to them. We're not speaking as loud. We may change the way we talk. We open doors. We kind of step out of the way so that they can, get through. But we won't do the same for Black people. We don't speak to them nicely. We don't, move out of the way. Certain things. I just noticed, just how we treat each other as a race of people. And again, like I said, I think it speaks to a deeper form of self-hatred. Like we just, we don't respect each other, or we don't really love each other, and it shows in our behaviors when we go out into the world. Even speaking, going back to the thing about black businesses and black restaurants. We even shortchange black businesses because we just don't see them, as as good as, say, like I said, a chain restaurant or a big corporation. Um, I see how we do our businesses. Like we don't feel like they deserve the money that they charge for certain services or products, or we try to bargain our way down to a different price, or we just say, we can go somewhere else and get it. We just don't value it. And we complain a lot about different services from black people. Well, they didn't even say thank you, or they didn't, the presentation wasn't as good. And we have all these different complaints about black businesses. But when I think about it, I don't recall Walmart or the electric company or anybody ever discounting their services because I couldn't afford it at the moment. Or they haven't sent me a thank you letter or correspond with me when I have a problem or whatever with their services. It's like, you pay it and you move on. You don't bargain with the owners. You just pay it, and we happily do it. Even if the service is sucky, we still do it. So again, like I said, I think this is kind of another form of self-hatred. I'm going to go to a caller really quick. This is 813 on Community Radio. Peace.
Greetings and restoration.
Greetings.
Yeah. All you say is true. I don't know if it's because you experienced it or you just see it, but I think it's a combination of things. I mean, we've learned disgusting behavior from the people that have subdued us. They treat us badly, so we treat each other bad or horribly. I think we learned it because I think back in the day, we totally were not like this. And when I say back in the day, I'm talking about our recordings, aka Bible. We did not treat each other that way. We knew that it was a mandate on our lives. If we were kind and right ruling, great and well would precede us. Our offspring would be beautiful, But something happened to us. We turned to idolatry. Our men are lusting after foreign and strange women. So naturally, if the house is the foundation is faulty, what's going to happen to the house? It's not going to stand. So we got a lot going on, but our recordings also give us an easy way out. It's simple, and things will not change. No matter how much we build, it's going to be knocked down. It's going to totally be knocked down. We've proven that here in America. Even after they've subdued us on our own land and took it away, and we had to purchase our own property and buy our own homes, we built great cities, but they burnt us out because we are still wallowing in idolatry. And no matter what we say, no matter what we do, I don't care if we pray on each other or not, but if we continue with this idolatry, things aren't going to change. But as soon as we stop, they will. And our recordings tell us, turn from your wickedness, ask to be pardoned. That's all we got to do. Once we do that, we're on our way to greatness again. Our recordings tell us so.
I understand what you're saying, but in this, we're in this information age now. And I think that a lot of us know our history, but at some point, I think we have to kind of examine our own behavior with each other, no matter, what the root was. Even in the example
I agree.
Just about, how we, when we have company or something, we break out the good china, but just normal everyday dealings with our families and in our household when no one else is there. Like we don't break out the good china for each other. We don't provide like a loving home for each other. We don't speak to each other in a loving way. We're not as formal with each other as we are people outside of our community or outside of our family. And I don't think that we have to go back to, slavery or anything like that to kind of explain or to try to give a reason for those things. I think it's just a lack of respect for each other. I mean, we just don't do it.
We don't need to go back anywhere. We're still enslaved. I'm not talking about going back anywhere. I'm talking about where we are right now. And these are not my words. I'm only repeating what's in our recordings that our forefathers has passed down to us to do. And if we ignore it, then we'll ignore what we do to each other, and it'll continue. That's all.
Okay, I'm going to bring in another caller that has their hand up, and you can stay on the line. If you just jump in whenever you feel like it. I'm not going to mute your mic. You can just mute your phone. I'm going to bring in 662. Thank you for your comment. 662, you're on Community Radio.
Hi, Sister Karen. Hi, everybody.
Peace. How are you?
Hello?
How are you? I can hear you.
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I was listening and I just kind of came in, but and just thinking about what you said, we do have a problem with treating each other well and patronizing each other's businesses. But back in the day, our businesses were in our communities. They're not so much there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the special dinner and all that stuff, I think that was like for like Thanksgiving and stuff like that. People would put out the special dishes when family comes over for that reason.
Mm-hmm. But what about just everyday? I'm not speaking of just special occasions. I'm speaking about, just everyday dealings that we have with each other. Like, do we speak to our children or do we speak to our mates and our spouse in a loving way consistently? Or do we yell and scream and tell each other, shut up or just speak to each other kind of in a non-formal, harsh tone on a regular basis? And, we can try. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was thinking, I'm a yeller and a screamer. I'm not so much of a shut up person, but I yell and scream, which I'm trying to say. It don't get me anywhere.
Yeah. And I just think that, we just treat other people a lot better. When we go to work, we are subdued. We don't speak to our bosses that way. We don't speak, like I said, if we're out, on the street or something, we may be a little bit more softer and quieter to people outside of our community. But it's like when we come home, there's no holds barred, It like I said, I think it speaks to a different or a deeper form of self-hatred. Why don't we give that same respect and same formality to each other at home on a regular basis? We're out.
Do you think it's self-hatred, or do you think it's the stressors of being out here trying to make it and holding all that stuff in, and then when you get home, it just kind of comes out?
But why do we unleash that on our families, though? Why do we unleash that on them?
Well, I'm going to tell you what it is. It's hate. Look, I know exactly what you're saying, Kim. I experience it on a daily basis, more with kinfolk than strangers, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When you know truth, when you are in a certain position and you know truth, you don't even have to speak about it. People will respond. See, I read a script once, an old so-called lost scroll. I forget who the author was, but speaking to Most High. And Most High said, he was inquiring about the end of times, and he said, 1 in 1,000 and 2 in 10 will know. So if it's that little for us, a lot of our people are just plain fucking wicked. wicked. I have sat in the library and had young girls rolling their eyes at me. And who does she think she is? I couldn't tell you what they were talking about or what their issue was. I couldn't tell you. But it's hate. I've had it growing up since kindergarten. Like I told, look, I met a man recently. Let me tell you this. I met a man recently. Someone introduced me to him, went to his home, very negative impression, and knew that was going to be it. We talked on the phone after that, and I let him know that I don't greet any of people that I care about, or actually anyone. I don't greet saying hell, go to hell when I call you. And we talked in depth about that and some other things. And every time this man calls me, he says hello. Totally unconscious, totally like he'll agree with what I'm saying and turn around and say good night or something silly like that. Like there's just no penetrating through a wicked mind. You can't penetrate a wicked mind with truth because they always want to reject it. Always.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, going back, you know, just thinking on it, like you said, just even how we greet each other. I've gone to events, you know, like cultural events and things where, you know, we show up in our African garb and we try to, you know, present ourselves as deep and we're conscious and all this kind of stuff when we greet each other, peace sister and peace brother, and, you know, we have all these elaborate greetings. But when we go to our home, when we go back home and take those clothes off, the way we speak to each other, you know, we don't greet each other properly. We may walk into the room or walk into the house and don't even speak or don't even say anything to each other. And then, you know, like I said, it's displayed in our children, like the example I used that my daughter gave. It comes out. And like I said, I came to this after watching this clip with Sister Betty Shabazz, how she was saying that at some point we have to take ownership and have accountability for that type of behavior that we have with each other. Because even though we try to put on a mask when we go outside or when we're around other Black people at, say, cultural events and things like this, you know, we still, there's no, you know, we're kind to each other, but we're not kind to each other in our own homes. And so we carry that behavior on out through our adulthood, not realizing, you know, like the last discussion we had about Black men and Black women and how we've had this disconnection now, not realizing that most of that hatred we have for each other comes from just dealing with our own people. And when I say our own people, I'm just saying even within our own homes and our own families. I'm going to bring in another caller. This is 443. Peace, you're on Community Radio.
Greetings. How y'all doing?
Greetings. Peace, Sister Dasha. How are you?
Good. Okay. So my opinion on this whole thing is basically how, you know, like we were saying in Tuesday's show, the love language ain't none, basically. Right. And I think, this is my personal opinion, I think that it's lacking because, like you said, when we go into our own homes or when we're amongst our friends and family, we don't use that love language, or we're not as docile or submissive or whatever, is because it is almost like a safe haven. If I come in the house yelling and screaming at my kids and being all rah-rah, they're not going to do nothing to me. You know what I mean? Like, nothing is going to be lost. If I come in this office, I'm at work right now, but I'm in my car. If I come in my job, you know, and I bust into my manager's office, look here, what you going to have to do is, Bob, I'm not answering no more of these goddamn emails, blah, blah, blah. What's going to happen? Fired. Immediately. Yeah. So I think it's like the sister said, we have to turn it off and on almost for survival. So then when we get home, it's like, okay, now I can I could take it down and I can, talk how I want to talk. The problem with that is you talking this you're spewing this negativity and this hate to the people who support you the most, or should be anyway. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Now, where does that come from? Right. Some people can say, oh, it's the conditioning, it's from slavery and, all these things, which I agree with all of that. However, like you said, this is the information age, and most of us now, some of us are still out there who don't know the history, okay? But let's just, for argument's sake, say that most of us do know. So, why are we still doing this?
Most of us don't know. And again, I get exactly what you're trying to convey, Kim, because that's how we are with each other. It's sad. I see it all the time. Family reunions, you name it. I mean, we're just kinder to other people than we are to our own people. We'll backbite each other quicker. I mean, we do loads of crappy stuff to each other. Black women hate on each other easy for no reason, just stupid nonsense. It's true, but I still think it is conditioning because we didn't used to be this way. We used to rule Earth, and our yamas and our yabas were respected, and we went to them for information about all things. We don't know anything. Most people think that gravity is holding us onto Earth, and that the Earth is a big ball spinning 1,000,000 miles an hour in space. But yet technology, information is all around us, but most people still think that. They still think it. People are not searching for truth, Kim. Our scripture tells us, if you search for truth, you'll find it. Search for truth and you find truth. Most of us do not search for truth. Most of us don't.
Yeah, I hear you, but, just going outside of just trying to know history. And then Sister Tasha brought up a good point where she said that, if we go to work and behave that way, we get immediate feedback. And we know that our livelihood may be at stake. But when we go home, we don't have that same respect because we don't see the long-term effects that has. We don't see the damage that we do to each other and to our children when they have to go out into society, when they have to, go out and interact with other Black people. It's just, I don't think we need a history lesson to learn how to speak to each other. Like Tasha was speaking about the love language. I don't think we need a history lesson or have to go back and research history and all this kind of stuff just to know how to treat each other better. This is just something that
it has to be a new learned behavior. Mm-hmm. And it's actually happening now within my own family, with just among my sisters and I. My oldest sister, I mean, you want to talk about a foul-mouthed person? Mm-hmm. And I love her to death. I love my sister so much, but she is gangster, okay? She always ready to punch somebody. That's her thing. I'm about to punch you. That she always says that. You know what I mean? Yeah. She is ready to pop off at any time. But over the last couple of years, I've seen dramatic transformation in her, and that she's become a lot softer, a lot kinder. I just came from Virginia visiting her. I just stayed for a couple days. No real reason. I was just, missing my sister. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the weekend. I'm going to go up there. And she was just so warm and loving. And, she had all my favorite foods because she knows that I don't eat meat and stuff like that. So she was like, I went to the market and I got all your favorite stuff, and she didn't tease me about it or anything like that. And it was just great. Like she was hugging on me, and she's not a touchy person. Like don't touch her. You know what I mean? But she was very loving and very open. And I think that type, once you, as an individual, once you come into your own light and you start transforming and you shine that on other people, then it becomes contagious just as fast as the hate language. If you switch it to the love language, which is kind of difficult if you don't know no better. You know what I mean? Once you make that switch, then it's contagious, and it'll go on and on and on. And so that whole weekend, I saw my nieces, and we were just all just so loving on each other, and it just spread, and it felt so good. And so I feel like if we just kind of just flip the switch, because we know better. You can't tell me that we don't know no better. At least one person in the family knows better. One of the friends out of the crew knows better. Well, so if that person would just speak up and step up, then we can just, spread this love language out. And, hopefully it'll spread like that.
Yeah. Where do you think that behavior came from before she transitioned? Why was she so angry, and why do you think she, had that type of attitude towards people? Where did it stem from?
I mean, honestly, she's had a hard life. We all have as sisters, Like I've shared with y'all before, we all have the same mom, different dads. She grew up in Europe. I was shipped off to the South Bronx. I didn't meet her until I was 9 years old. She was 15. We've both suffered abuse, mental, verbal, physical, all that.
From whom, though?
From our family members.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm just not as hard as she is. I can be, but she takes it to a whole nother level. And I sympathize with that. I get it, because I know what she's been through, so I don't judge. But, yeah. And all that stuff is so rampant in our families, in our community. Nobody talks about the boys and girls that are being molested or just verbally abused. That verbal abuse, like you said, that thing is real damaging.
Right.
Because nobody takes it seriously. Nobody's going to take it as seriously as the sexual abuse or the physical abuse. Like, why are you so thin-skinned? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just talking to you. You can't take a couple harsh words, but you don't understand what that does to a child. And you really don't understand what it does to an adult. You could be a grown man or a grown woman, and you got somebody talking to you all sideways and crazy and just putting you down. Yes, all of that has an effect. So in turn, what do? We put it on the next person. We feel powerless. We want to feel power. So now I'm going to project that on you because I don't have my own power. This is the only way that I can feel in control. So I'm going to yell. I'm going to scream. I'm going to hit you. I'm going to demean you because you being submissive to me and taking in all my negativity is giving me power. Not realizing that that's useless power. What are you going to do with that? You know what I mean? I felt powerful, and she shared with me that she felt powerful too when I came there, and we just had the best time. Her power was the fact that she was able to give me my favorite foods, and, we stayed up late and talking and, playing in each other's hair and even gossiping a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, just all that stuff, and we left each other feeling absolutely wonderful, as opposed to times in the past where we just clashed so hard, probably because we both felt powerless in our own lives. So it was like, okay, well, I'm going to tell her how I feel about this. And, you know, I'm pop off at the back, and I double dog dare her to say something, you know, and that we just clash and trying to look for that power, trying to look for that validation.
What do you think brought about her change? What do you think brought about her change in behavior, in her language?
I think a lot had to do with our mom transitioning. They had a very unique relationship, you know. She was there with her mostly throughout, you know, the end of her life because they were both there in Virginia. I was already moved down here to Florida, so I didn't come until like the last couple days. And I moved away very young, you know. So she was always there, but they had their own weird relationship too, you know, like they loved each other, but they were so much alike that they clashed a lot of times too. And I think that her transitioning and not being here anymore, it was almost a wake-up call, like a smack in the face, like, you need to change something. You know, you need to change your physical self. Like I was saying, I got her on the detox, and she's doing very well, by the way. She's not smoking cigarettes and some other things that she used to do. She's not doing any of that. And I'm a firm believer in, you know, once you start changing the physical, the diet, your activity levels, and then onto your spirituality and things like that, everything else is going to fall into place. You know, you're going to just start transforming. And I think, like I said, our mom passing, that was the trigger. And now she's just running with it. And she's taking it to whole new heights. Is she perfect? No, none of us are. Is she where she wants to be right now? No, but she's working on it. And she's very diligent in it too, I might add. So, I mean, for different people, it's different things. Different things will trigger you to, you know, change your life and change how you are perceived by people and how you treat people. Life will make you look at that, you know. And unfortunately, most times it's bad stuff that happened to you that'll shake you and be like, oh, hold up, let me backtrack a little bit. Let me try to fix this thing because I don't like the way I'm looking out here in these streets. You know what I mean? And I think that's what happened to her. And so just to go back to the original point, I think that it's just going to have to be a learned behavior. And like I said, we all have our groups of people that we are around on a regular basis, whether it's our family, whether it's a very close-knit group of friends, or it could even be coworkers, you know, whatever. Out of all those people in your clique, somebody knows. Somebody's enlightened, and somebody knows that ain't right. You know what I mean? So to that person, step it up. Don't be afraid to be you, and don't be afraid to call people out on their negativity. Hey, you're being negative, and we don't like that. We love you. We're not kicking you out. We're not counting you out. But how about if we say it like this or do it like this? Because this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like love.
Yeah. I just don't know.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
Yeah, if we're not kind to our kin, how are we going to be kind to other people? Like the kin, when I say kin, folks in our home. We're not. I agree with you. And I want to clarify something. If you think being separated from your relatives for 9 years will do all that to you, then how much more 400 years of captivity and enslavement? I mean, you want to brush it off like it's it's nothing, but it does matter. And our historians have, or I should say, our people who have written about our past have clearly connected the trauma, the post-traumatic stress that all of us experience because of it. You cannot wash it away. But yet I also agree with you when you say, well, why can't we just be kind to each other? It's that deep. It's that deep, because I'm experiencing it and my kinfolks. When my mom passed, I live in Florida. When my mom passed, those crazy niggas up north didn't even call me and tell me she was sick because of their hate for me. So it's a deep thing. And I'm the sister who was always available when someone needed it, especially monetarily. So there's really no excuse, but we do it anyway.
Yeah.
Do it anyway.
You know, just listening to you, I'm not disagreeing with you about the history, but you know, when I think about just our children, like they're not as caught up on it as we are. They only know what they experience, and what they experience is the arguments, the fighting, the lack of disrespect in our own house. You know, they can watch Roots, they can, you know, get the history, you know, we can tell them all these wonderful things that we did way back when, but when they come in the house, what do they experience? All that goes out of the window. That doesn't matter to them. All that goes out, that's one, you know, it goes in one ear and out the other. When we deal with each other in our homes, or when we, you know, in our friendships or whatever, that's what they see, and that's what they hear, and that's what Sister Shabazz was speaking on. You know, it's one thing to acknowledge the history, but I don't think that really convicts us to change our behavior that much, because we don't see that as current. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, how many police beatings and, you know, altercations do we have to watch before we notice that, okay, this starts at home. This came from our parents, the way they interacted with each other, the way we speak to our brothers, our siblings, you know, our brothers and sisters and things, and our cousins. That's where that came from. It's not necessarily, you know, like I said, we can get the history, but we don't we're not relating to that history when we have to deal with each other. And I think
I wanted to say, when you were absolutely right, it starts in the home. And why aren't our kinfolks teaching us how to be what each of us? Because they don't know how to be. Where do you think it all starts? I think back, let me tell you something. I had wonderful grandparents, but I look at them as an adult and see how they interacted with their kids. It was all wrong. They had nothing to offer us because they didn't get anything. Mm-hmm. And I think I had the best grandparents in the world. But looking back with a mind of knowing that has more truth in it than it's ever had, I see the fault. Mm-hmm. No one was taught anything. We were not taught to be kind. We were not taught to be affectionate. We were not taught to be trusting. We weren't even taught how to be women and how to be men around other women and men growing up. We weren't taught how to a female to be with a male. I wasn't. Mm-hmm. I learned those things so late in life, to the point where I thought it was just too late. You know?
Yeah. I'm going to bring in
to this day, okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going to bring in another caller. This is 615. Greetings. You're on Community Radio.
Greetings, Sister Kim. Greetings, everyone.
How are you?
Greetings.
Hey. Yeah, y'all really getting to the bottom of a lot of the issues, man. I was listening to Sister speak about, you know, how the elder family members, you know, weren't taught to give affection. I believe that's true because, you know, especially like where my folks come from. My folks are they are the descendants of sharecroppers. And during that time, like right after that, you had that convict leasing stuff where they was locking, black people up for silly stuff and then leasing them out to like tobacco and coal mining, especially coal mining farms and rice paddies down in soybeans down in Mississippi. So like showing affection could potentially really get your heart broke because you're looking at a group of people where you might have to send your son off at the age of 12 to go work at a milk bottling farm. Because that's something that my granddad had to do. He was 12 years old and was working at a milk processing plant delivering milk. And in the process, he was hurt because his parents sent him off. Because they couldn't take care of him, so they sent him off to work. So he was bitter. And when he got married, he was abusive. When he was abusive to my grandmama, then my grandmama then made my dad her husband. Subconsciously to protect her from her own husband. So my dad then in turn, because he was they were part Chickasaw Indian, so he was light skinned, green eyes, that whole thing in Mississippi. And people think that light skinned people had it good. Actually they didn't. They used to tie my dad up and sick dogs on him because he was light skinned and he didn't look like the rest of the dark skinned people. And then that led to molestation and everything else by church members. So you're dealing with a man who learned at an early age due to the pain that his family suffered and pain that he suffered himself, not to trust people and not to get close to people and to just, do what people say. So when I come along, I'm the darkest child in the family, and I'm also the one who will ask questions. So not only was he a little embarrassed that his son came out dark, because now his mama don't want to be bothered with me, because that was the source of a lot of the pain. Because when he first had me, his attention went to me, and his mom didn't want to lose her son to another woman, which was my mama, which didn't really matter because she was gay, because she didn't like masculine energy, because her dad was abusive, because he had to work at an early age. And he didn't get the mother's love in which he felt that he should have had. So she mad at my mama because she's a dark-skinned gay black woman in Mississippi. I'm a dark-skinned child of her son, which now has to focus his attention on me. So she threw a cross between that just so he could stay to her. She could keep him to herself. So when I got a reading about it, what the ancestor said, he was like, yeah, you come from a line of hardworking people, but the issue that I had with them, they had with me, was the fact that they wasn't as strong as me, because I would be the one to always be like, well, let's hug, let's talk about it. What is this? What is that? How do you do that? I want to be like this. I want to be like y'all, and just be very outgoing, because I didn't have to, I didn't see that. They didn't get that opportunity to be that outgoing and curious and have the resources that I had as a child. So they harbored a little bit of jealousy and a little bit of, and most of it's embarrassing. Like, that's why a lot of men end up, I guess you could say abandoning children. A lot of the time it ain't even for the fact that they don't want to be fathered. 90% of them are embarrassed because they either had to do something to keep the jobs they had, or they didn't want their son to see them get disrespected by some white man who you got to call his son, his grandson. You 30, 40 years old, and you having to call his 9-year-old grandson Mr. Embarrassing stuff like that. So between the humiliation and between the rough life and the learn, not to get close to a family member because you never know when they get taken away from you, we never unlearn that. And I think us as black people, we have to start taking into consideration the stories of what our family went through and address them, be like, I forgive you for that. And it's okay to hurt. No one's gonna laugh at you because you was embarrassed because you was 16 years old with a son. It's okay. We accept you regardless. We're not gonna keep holding that against you, and we're not gonna use that as leverage to make you feel bad when we get the opportunity to. Like that, we have to stop that. And I'm a firm believer that. And I think as for me, as the only person in the family that's involved with African spirituality, that's my charge to them. Like, you know what, I understand what y'all went through, but y'all really don't have to let that tear y'all apart, because no one really thinks badly of y'all, because I didn't see that happen. You treated me good. You know, you nice to me. So, you know, I love you. If don't nobody else love you, I love you. So, you know, if you ever got anybody you need to talk to, I'm not going to judge you. I know what happened, yeah. I felt the backlash of that, but it's all good, because, you know, at the end of the day, I ain't going to get another grandma. I ain't going to get another dad. You know, I can't run away from my ancestors. So let's just start dealing with them and treat them a little bit better, knowing that they have issues that they need to work out that they haven't got a chance to deal with because they don't know how to deal with it, because they are really embarrassed. Right. I think that's something that black people have to look at. Like, a lot of our ancestors are like that because they are embarrassed. They didn't fight when they wanted to, or they just didn't have a heart to face the children. Like, man, you know, yeah, but it was either that or sleep with this white dude, and I did it. That's how we kept the house. You know, stuff like that. So just forgiving each other and accepting each other's pain.
I think that's a good point that you brought up, is that we just have to kind of acknowledge to each other the pain and the hurt that we've suffered, you know, and have to kind of transform our homes and our family lives as more of a loving, comfortable, you know, kind of safe place, instead of coming home and unleashing that on the people closest to us. I think that's what we do more than anything. It's like we get home, like Sister Tasha was saying, we get home and we just kind of unravel. We just kind of unleash that on each other, not understanding that, you know, as a black woman or as a black man, that we both, you know, have issues, and that we both experience a lot of pain outside of the home. So why not transform, you know, why not treat each other better when we get home? We just don't, you know, it just doesn't click. And I don't know why. It's like, why can't we see that we treat other people outside of ourselves, outside of our home, a whole lot better than we do in the house? You know,
we can't do what's not in us. We can't. I don't know. I don't care how old we get or how long we've been on this planet. You can't do what's not in you. It's not going to happen. And while
I think you can, though. I think you can, to a degree.
Well, you can force someone. You can force someone, but I'm talking about a natural feeling. See, it's like the other two callers talked about their issues. They were forthright with telling you the issues that they've gone through. Clearly, Kim, it's issues in our lives that prevent us from doing the right thing. We got issues.
I'm going to tell you what it is, because I experienced this with my mama, and I don't know how it is.
Another one.
I don't know if people up north are like this, but this is the frame of mind that people in the South have when it comes to that. And I'm so glad Sister Kim brought that question up, because I had to take a long, hard look at myself about that same issue, because I had found myself doing the same thing. One thing black families always say is, I'm always going to be your mama, and I'm always going to be your dad. You can't get another one. You got to deal with me regardless. So so in the Southern person's mind, the family is always going to be there. We can be mad and go, but still, you still family. So you have to put up with my mess. Whereas on the outside, the people on the outside, especially white people you work for or with, you know, your clients, your bosses, your pastors, the people that you need to function in the real world, is like, okay, let me be nice to them. It's a slave mentality. Well, let me be nice to these people, because these people can actually affect my money. Madeira, she can't. She'll be mad at me, but she can't affect my life the way Mr. Robinson can, or she can't affect my life the way no one else can. Huh?
I don't think it's calculated in our minds. Look, we got issues. We got serious issues, and And I don't know, I just lost my thought. But if it's not taught, if we're not taught kindness in our homes, we're not going to grow up as grown folks with kindness. It is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you have to address the problem.
And the church has made it worse with all their wild craziness. So we got a lot of crazy crap going on.
Yeah, I just want to bring in a quick example of something Dietrich said. Like he was saying, you know, sometimes we have to be the one to initiate that change. I remember going to a dinner that one of my aunts was giving, you know, because finally everybody was kind of, you know, centrally located. We were at home, you know, and we could finally see each other. But I remember when I came into the house, you know, I greeted everybody, and as I was greeting them, I was hugging them at the same time. And it was so funny because a lot of them didn't even know how to hug. You know, they didn't even know how to just embrace me or just, you know, wrap their arms around me, just because, you know, they weren't hugged or, you know, shown that affection when they were growing up. And just the fact that I was, you know, greeting them and hugging them. I remember one of my aunts said, you know, she said it out loud. She was like, "That's a shame. You know, we don't even know how to hug each other. We don't even know how to hug."
Exactly.
You know, and I just realized, like, it took that, like, before I even came over there, nobody hugged anybody or even greet. You know, they just came through the door. They may have said, "Hey, everybody," or something like that. But to greet each other individually and to give a hug was like a huge thing. It like shifted the whole energy in the room. It was so strange to see how they reacted to me. Like, they didn't even know how to hug, you know. And I just thought that was so sad, but I was so amazed at my aunt finally making the statement out loud and saying, you know, that's a shame. You know, we just don't even know how to hug each other. I'm going to bring in another caller real quick. This is 201. Greetings.
Hey, peace, everybody. Peace. Yeah, greetings. Yeah, this is a good discussion. I wanted to ask a question and then make a statement. But, you know, Kim, I think you should give the back end of that story, too, because you had an aunt that said something that was very profound. Do you remember?
About we don't even know how to hug each other?
Yeah, but then remember when she was like, "But it's not too late to learn"?
Oh, yeah, she sure did.
Yeah.
Right after that, she did make that statement. She did say that. Excuse me.
Yeah, I thought that was very profound. You know, she just said, "Well, we can learn."
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a sister earlier who brought up a point about idolatry in terms of that being a large part of the cause of where we've ended up. Sis, would you mind, before I make a statement, I want to make sure I'm not stepping over your statement. Can you share your definition of idolatry?
It's not my definition. It's our recordings. Idolatry, calling on strange entities, calling on God, calling on lords and JC, all of that, the white woman. There's a lot of idolatry in our community, and we're stunted by it. We're totally stunted. You know, this all of creation be formed by a word, and we think we can go about and say things like hello, and when we are in pain and our people are dying in the streets, young men and women being shot down in the streets, and we're calling on JC and Lord. Those are just another names for Shaitan. And we think we're going to get answers. We're not going to get answers. We haven't gotten answers. But individuals of us who seek truth, you get answers. And I'm a testimony to that. Even when your entire family is crazy and they think you are, you're getting answers. When we seek truth out, truth is really right there for us. It's right next to us. But if we seek truth, truth will take a seat in our lap and teach us all we need to know. And that's what we got to do individually. It's not going to happen collectively with marching and protesting.
All that is garbage, passe garbage. It's not going to work. We got to do spiritually what's right. And I don't care how people wave it off and think it's old-fashioned and it don't mean nothing and everybody don't think the same. It's not about what you think. It's about truth. It's about doing what is right. It's about right ruling. And that's what we got to get back to. And we got to stop the idolatry. It's killing us.
Okay, so it's really important when we're having these kind of discussions to make sure that we clarify when we're saying we, are, they, and them. So, like, one of the things you said was that it's in our recorded history, correct?
I did, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who's our? What collective are you speaking of?
Well, if you heard me from, I think I said in the beginning, so-called Negro, I'm talking about black folk. I don't think that's, is that foreign to you?
Excuse me?
So-called Negro people. That's who I'm talking about. Seed of Yaakov. Man, original man of earth. It's all about us.
You're defining the original man as the children of Yaakov.
I'm not defining anything. I'm trusting in the truth of my recordings from my forefathers, four Abbas that have been recorded and written. Yes, they've been tainted with, but the truth is still obtainable. Because truth does not die. It never does. It rises above.
Okay, so I'll make my statement. I wanted to get some clarity on what you were saying earlier, and I think I've gotten even more clarity than I initially wished for. One of the important things, and a lot of you are saying the right things in terms of solutions. We need to learn to be a bit more kind to one another, and acknowledging that, those who came before us perhaps didn't know how to be kind, or perhaps didn't know how to teach those things, or I even heard it said, didn't know how to teach us how to be with one another. What's important, though, when we look at idolatry? Idolatry is an important part of the solution for those of us who are Anu, for those of us who are African-centered, African-minded, and African-behaving. The word idolatry, the true definition of idolatry, is the worship of images. That's what idolatry means. Taking its root from the Greek latreia. So sometimes you might find people named Latreia or Latreia. That word actually means to worship. And worship means to ascribe the attributes of a thing. So it means like to describe something. And in your description of it, in your act of describing it, you actually bring those attributes to life. So if you speak to the greatness of something, then you extract and pull that greatness out. If you speak to the diminished or failing parts of something, then you bring those failing parts out. So when we worship something, most often we use worship as a form of invocation. So if I was to say that I have a certain image or idea of what a black woman is, or what a black man is, in their greatest and highest presence and their greatest and highest aspirations, and I hold that image and I begin to name and cite what that image is, that would be by definition idolatry. And one of the huge problems that we have in these type of discussions is this. We're speaking about we need to learn to be more kind, or teach kindness, or I think Sister Tasha spoke about using a more loving language with one another. But if we don't have an image or an idea of what that means at its supreme presence, then that means different things to different people. One may say something to someone that makes them feel unwhole, or makes them feel uncomfortable. And then we could say, okay, what's the noise? Is that you, Dietrich? Everybody mute out, please, if you're not talking. So one could say that if I say this to someone or this was said to me and it didn't feel good, and then we could call that being unkind. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't loving. So one of the key things that we have to do in this work of, understanding, do we secretly do like the question of the show, do I secretly hate black people, is the first to define what it is, because to love black people, what does that image look like, and what is it that I'm loving? Because there are always supposed to be parts of yourself that you're going to hate and parts that you're going to love. It's vital in order to negate things from you that shouldn't be around you and to add on and congregate with things that you do want with you. But the first thing that we have to have is, what is the highest aspiration and image of womanhood? What is the highest aspiration and image of manhood? And let's say if I'm speaking to Dietrich and he's functioning beneath the privilege of that image, then if he's my brother, if I love him, then I'm rightfully going to tell him, look, man, you're not making the mark, based on what we've all agreed on collectively, the mark being. And that's the first thing you have to come to. So just saying, oh, we need to be more loving, we need to be more kind, is not enough, because a lot of times when you're throwing out those words, we don't even know what they mean. We just know that someone made us feel some way we didn't enjoy, and now we want to be made to feel a way where we can feel happy again, or the relationship between them and us can be a bit more excited. So I just kind of wanted to add that statement. And one last thing, even when you speak about loving your people, you may have an intrinsic love for your people off the bat, primarily because off the bat you feel a sense of connectedness. But just like you have the daylight, just like you have nighttime, there are certain things that go into comprising certain experiences in our life. So there are a multitude of elements that go into comprising what we consider to be daytime. There are a multitude of elements that go into comprising what we consider to be nighttime. So in the same instance, you can have that immediate, quick, connected feeling of connectedness, love for your people, but in order for it to develop into something that's really functional, you have to put all the elements into it that comprise the full potion of love. Just like in order for it to be day, there has to be more than just sunlight. There has to be other things that now make daytime. And sometimes outside of our homes, we may try to input more of those ingredients because we understand that we have a greater sense of, okay, love has to be earned. Love has to be cultivated. Love has to be developed. But when we get back home, we're not so in tune with that because we don't have that same sense of reciprocity. Outside of the home, if I input this into my love relationship, I get something back. Or like most of the examples you all gave were examples that someone would do in commerce. When I'm on my job, I have to behave like this. Why? So I can get a check. So it's all commerce related. Well, what's the commerce or what's the medium of exchange within a family that keeps that family going? It's the reciprocity of strength and sympathy that's shared through the cultivation of love. So that's just the little point I wanted to make. But, I wanted to get some clarity on that idolatry conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, for your comment. One of the things that I wanted to bring out was something that you said was having a collective image of the highest form of what a black woman or a black man is. And I think that's so critical because most of us use those images that we have are just, growing up, it's your parents. And, we don't see the flaws or we don't see how it's not loving or, we don't see the exchange or we don't see the damage that it does until we start to form our own families. And I think, like you said, having a collective image, that means we all have to have the same image of the highest form of love or the highest form of what family is in order to be reciprocal, or in order to give and receive that amongst each other. And I don't think we have that. When you go into a person's home, usually you'll see a picture of, like you said, of Jesus. Not like you said, but we'll see a picture of Jesus, or we'll see these images of God, maybe. But for the most part, you have images of your family. And it reminds me of something that you said once that you brought up in the show once, is that a mission statement for the family is important, and how to, put that mission statement up on a wall somewhere where everyone can see it, and we're always reminded of what we're doing, and what the goals are for that family. And I don't think that we have that, or those images. Like I said, we have those images of our family, so we're constantly reminded, like Dietrich said, I'm going to always be your mother. I'm going to always be your father. So you have to accept me. And those are the highest forms that we have in our homes. We don't have like a collective agreement upon, what that image should be, or like how you broke down idolatry. Like we don't have a collective image of what that is. And I know, like, recently I've gone into some people's homes and we might replace Jesus with Barack Obama or somebody like that, and that's our highest form. So that's a good question, like, for the people on the call, and for those of you listening. Again, just press 1 to be heard, or to add your input to the conversation. Do you all have a collective agreement and a collective image of what those highest forms of Black women and Black men are? Do we have those in our homes, or do we even speak about it? Or
Mm-hmm. I'd like to make a comment on that. Again, we're using the terms "are," right? And I'll say this: for anyone who's in Anu, who's in the ministry, then that would be the R or the we. There are others who are on this line who they call into the show because they enjoy calling into the show, and that's it. They enjoy the information, so they may not necessarily ascribe to the same, like when we say collective image. The collective image would have to be, it could be 5 or 6 different families, but it would have to be all of us who are in Anu, who say this is what the supreme idea of manhood is. This is what the supreme idea of womanhood is. This is what the supreme idea of a family is. Just like when in the Nation of Islam, you're not going to go into a house and not see Message to the Black Man on the bookshelf, or How to Eat to Live, or just even an image of Master Farad Muhammad, or the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or Louis Farrakhan, because it's been agreed upon that these are the collective curators of what they consider to be their highest doctrine. You see, right? So that's what you would have to, because it would almost be unfair to say, okay, it's like a fish saying to a goat, like, do we agree on the same thing? No, because we're functioning from 2 different paradigms. And like the sister earlier who was talking all the shaitan and Sida Yaqub, which a lot of that information, I don't necessarily agree with. I think she's got her terms backwards. But again, we're coming from 2 different cultures. And the culture that she may be dealing with, to speak in the tone that she spoke to me in, is probably totally acceptable. In our new culture, and I'm sure a lot of you picked up on it, that wouldn't be acceptable to, is that foreign to you? And the tone and everything she took. So that's where it could get a little bit shaky. If we're all coming under the same flag, then we're going to have that collective image. But you got different people on the line calling in. They're representing different flags, which is fine. But again, the question may, you're going to go off in 5 million directions with something like that, because, you're going to start talking about the seed of Yaqub and, and Shaitan is doing this, and it's idolatry, and we're not even working. Because you know what? Based on her definition, most of you who follow my information, then you are idol worshippers, because you do have orishas, and you have pots, and you have images, and you light candles in front of those images, and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel convicted based off of what you just heard, then maybe you'll stop doing that. But I have a feeling none of you are going to stop doing that based off of what you just heard. So collectivism is the answer for a lot of this. It's collectivism.
Yeah. Yeah. So, go ahead.
Well, I was listening to Chief. Greetings, Chief, by the way, too.
Peace, Brother Dietrich. Peace.
This is one of the shows. I think this whole week and this whole month is a turning point for everyone, because now, based off the past two shows, the two shows we had this week, I've come to realize, and Sister Kim, I think you triggered it. You said that when you went back home and you was hugging people and you was, showing people how to be affectionate or whatever, and your family said, we don't even know how to do that, and she said that your aunt said that you can learn. What I took from that, and what I take from Chief, and Chief Yuya, along with two other brothers, are the only two men I can actually say this about and be dead convicted about it. What you just described was, you have to be the change you want to see. And I don't remember which show it was. I remember Chief saying that everything has a spirit, and we are either creating spirits or feeding one. And I remember he was saying there's a spirit of the monkey. Not every monkey is the individual same. Just like a monkey ain't the same thing as an ape. But they're primates, but monkeys and apes aren't the same. Then you have different species of monkeys. Then you have different subspecies of monkeys. But there's a general spirit of the monkey that does this. There's a general spirit of the horse. That sort of thing. So when you gave the scenario of you and your family, what popped into my head is you are being that spirit that's bringing about that healing. And Chief, I like I said, I've yet to still see, with all my issues that I've had in my life with people that I actually looked up to, a person who can directly emanate what they talk about. Like, Chief could really say something to somebody, and if you're not really looking at it with your first eye open, you would really think this guy's a for real jerk. But if you look at the spirit in which he says stuff, then you have no choice. But no, just okay. Prime example. What's her name? The sister that calls in all the time. Joanne, or the sister that he called in saying. Georgette. If you wasn't paying attention, or if you was being emotional and you dealing in your lower chakras, you would be like, man, he really talk foul to her. Like, he really beats up on her, and he knows that she can't beat him back. But if you actually listen to the spirit in which he says it in, it's amazing. I have yet to see a man be able to do that, and people actually get it. Like, the average person would listen to that. I'm like, hell no. How he gonna talk to her like that? I can't listen to nothing he say. He don't respect her. No, listen at the spirit in which he's saying. He's showing her that what you're saying is not making any sense. And I love you enough to come to you straight to your face and not pander to you to make you comfortable. I'm going to tell it to your face because I want it to stop today. So when Chief said earlier, who is the highest form of masculinity or femininity that us or whoever you link to, look up to, I think us as conscious people, or the people who consider themselves conscious, or the people who consider themselves healers, that has to be you, and you have to live that. Like, I have to be the Alafin of my family. I have to be the priest of my family in order for them to get it, because there's certain stuff that I've been doing since a child that they notice, and it actually makes half of them jealous, and it makes half of them feel comfortable because they know that I am not trying to do it. It's really just who I am. And when you be who you are, people can feel you. That's the law of vibration. I think that's where black people get that from. I feel you, not feel what you're saying. I feel the vibration in which you're saying it. So when Chief be saying this stuff and I be listening, I be like, he's actually doing this. That's the only reason a person would even call into the line and let somebody let them tell them that they're insane. And they actually, you know what, you're right. I am crazy. Because what you're saying is making sense. Because the spirit is there. Like, he's talking to people's soul. But in order to talk to a person's soul, you have to emanate that. So I think we have to be those high forms of it before we can even worry about the rest of them. Let's just be it first. And then let people start linking on to us. Because I remember when I was at work, I was doing security with these, it was this little club or whatever. And, it was violent. It was a really, really violent club. So I came in from my mentor, which reminds me a lot of Chief. We did it military style. We had all our equipment. We had our vests. We had K9s. We had all our equipment on point. So I go in there with my tack vest, my boots, my shirt tucked in, my pants creased up, boots shined up. Next thing I know, you had security guards walking around with their shirt tucked in. Then they was walking around with tack vests on. Then they was asking me, can they buy some gloves for me? Then they was wanting to get armed. Then they was wanting a duty belt. Then they was wanting to know how to work with animals. So all of this was happening over the course of me being there. But it's the fact that the essence of I'm coming in here, I'm prepared, I'm not playing around with y'all, and I'm going to come in here and be effective. It's the offset of that is what made them want to emulate me. Although they did not have the training that I had, it's the fact that I came in there with the spirit of I'm going to cause change. I'm not like the rest of y'all. And instead of me sitting up here talking about it, I'm just going to be it.
Yeah.
I'm going to just be it. And I think Chief does. I don't like I said, he can't be human because he's emulating higher dimensional consciousness by being what he says. And the saying is just the offset of what he actually is. And I think that's something that a lot of these quote unquote conscious people are going to have to do. It's beyond the history. It's beyond the pain. Won't you just be it for a minute? Just try it for a week. Just be the healer you say you are. And that's what I got from you, Sister Kim. That was my aha moment, for real.
Yeah. Yeah. At some point.
Is that considered the love language then? Because that is a good point, what you said, Diedrich, with the whole Georgette situation. And like what Chief just said, it's not gonna always be, warm and fuzzy. Sometimes it's going to be raw, but I love you. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying this because I love you. And this may be the only way I can convey that to you. I can't come at you all meek and, well, what you should probably do. No, I got to kind of hit you over the head with it a little bit. And if you're open, like you claim you are, you must be because you called into the show looking for advice, then you'll receive it. And that is a form of the love language.
Well, you know what, Sister Tasha? I'm actually going to give you a little insight on that. It's not necessarily the love language, it's the faith language. It's faith talk. The love is a given. That's why I do what I do. Because primarily because of the love. Because there's other things that I have a talent for that earn a lot of revenue and are much more fun to do. So this is initially, primarily the glue is love. But I will speak to certain things the way I do because of two things. One is flexibility. I'm willing to be whatever I need to be in the moment to get the love out. So if you could kind of look at love like a force, like a ball of energy that's or even just look at it like a gift. There's a certain gift that each person is supposed to receive that comes across my path. I don't know what the gift is. I don't know what it is. I have no expectations. But when I interact with them, I can feel it come channeling down through the crown of my head. And I got to get this gift to the person. And I may have to become different things in order for them to open up their hand. Because their hands are usually clenched when they come. They got their hands balled up in fists. That's the ego. And in order to break through that ego, I may have to, unpry their hands. I may have to do that. I may have to massage their neck. I may have to make them laugh. I may have to tickle them. And when they laugh, their defenses drop and I can get the gift to them. But there's or I may have to be smarter than they are. They come clinched because they think they're really deep because, they learned some stuff. And then I have to give them a glimpse of how much smarter I am than them. Then they open their hand. Boom. Here's the gift. Go on now. You got it. But the language, the actual vibratory objective within my language is faith. Faith is the knowing of the unseen combined with an expectation of what will be based on what you know. So if I'm speaking to someone like Georgette on the phone, I know she's going to overcome her nonsense. I know that. I have faith in her. I don't say that, but I have faith in her. So I speak to later Georgette, not today Georgette. I say, come on. She'll say, come on, man, you know better than that. She may not know better than that right now. But when I say you know better than that, I'm activating that future tense that's already alive in her. Because remember, time is cyclical. So whatever the greatness of what you're going to be in your life is already in you. You're already that. You just have to see it in your mind and say, okay, yeah, I can see that. And then you'll be it. So she may say something crazy, and I say, I don't know what you're talking about. You sound ridiculous. The Georgette I know, and then I'll crack a joke. But it's not really a joke. The Georgette I know wouldn't say nothing like that. The Georgette I know knows she's powerful, and she could da-da-da-da. Know what I'm saying? And then she'll be sitting there crying. Okay, Chief. Okay. But that's fine. Yeah. That's fine, because I got that gift in there. She's going to cry because I had to pry that hand open, and I'm strong, and it hurt now. Because you fought. You shouldn't have fought. If you wouldn't have fought, you would have got it easy. But it's a faith language. Every single one of you who I speak to, this is when we get into the psychic energy, my gift allows me to see you later. I'm seeing some of you at 70, 80 years old. I'm seeing some of you when you die. So I'm speaking the gifts that are necessary to pull you on that path. As far as the love, that should be obvious. A sister left a comment on a video a couple of days ago. Her name is Gretchen Sampson. And I can only say these names because it's on YouTube. It shows you. But she said, she was thanking me for the shows. I think it was the last one, God Demons, I think. Or it could have been a different one. But she said, she listened to me and she felt that I lacked compassion and I came off as very harsh, but she still found herself coming back to listen. And she further thanked me for the shows. But the fact that she said that was her little way of still trying to say that I lack compassion and I'm a little harsh. But the truth is, if you really understand the language, you would know I'm exhausted most of the time on video because I have so much compassion. Doing those shows and talking to people and reading them, it wears me out because they're transmitting emotions to me that I'm actually taking. I'm absorbing them. And then I'm processing them and giving them back what they need. That's exhausting. If anyone on the phone has ever been a teacher, worked in a classroom, or had to, work with a group of people who just were hard-headed, you know what I'm talking about. When you come home and you're white. So, it's really faith talk. Like I said, Sister Tasha, it's just seeing that, like Sister Kim went and said, we can do better than this. I know we can do better than this. I see us doing better than this. And that's how I'm going to function from that reality, that we can do better. So you and your sister is the same thing. She's making your favorite dishes and all of that. Why? Because she knows that you two can be cool. She sees it. Right. Like, no, I'm going to make this food. So it's like a ritual. You probably were still driving up when she was at the supermarket or was letting things soak or whatever. That's the ritual because you weren't there yet, but she was working something in the unseen world. something that only existed in her mind in order for it to materialize in three-dimensional reality. So the ritual began when she envisioned in her mind y'all sitting there and eating cornbread and whatever else you like, and just laughing and joking and kicking back 40s, because I know that's what you was doing too. You know, so that was vegan 40s.
No, that's not her preferred. That's not her preferred. That's not her.
Yeah,
that's not her choice. She informed us of that in another show, what she partakes in.
Oh, okay. But I knew it was in there. So that's the ritual, you know. But it's really faith talk. I have faith in a lot of you, and faith is not I know that you're going to do better. Faith is that I see what you're going to do. Some of you ain't going to do nothing, you know, and I see that. And some of you are going to do something. I see that too, you know.
Yeah.
And eventually, when you learn that language, you'll see it too, and you'll see exactly what I'm saying, why I'm saying, and who I'm saying it to.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for that, Chief. Thank you.
For sure.
Yes. Thank you.
Y'all know who else used to say that same thing? Jimmy Johnson, when he coached for the University of Miami and they won 3 championships. And then he went to the Cowboys and won 2 or 3 straight with them. And the sportscaster had asked him, he said, Jimmy Johnson, how are you getting so much out of your players? Like, how is it that everywhere you go, you win like that? And not only do you win, you look good when you win, your players look good when you win, and they don't care about anything else but winning, and they having fun winning in the process. He was like, this is how you do it. He said, from a young age, if you treat a player like how he is, and if you talk to a player how he is, that's exactly what he'll be. But if you talk to that player like what you know he can do or what he should be, then that is what he will become. Like, I don't understand. For some reason, I don't think people feeling Chief like that. Like, he just described how you win when it comes to dealing with people. And like I said, I just think today, this show right here, anybody who is listening to this show and want to be part of the Auto Nation, or anybody who call themselves trying to be conscious or down with the struggle, I think everybody just got called to task. Like, can you be that? And in order, like Chief said, the love language is there. It's speaking that person's language at the time that they need it. Like, you can't not love a person and do that. Like, you can't not love your people and even be concerned with it. That's a given. It's just, can you be that person and emulate and speak to that person as you see them down the road? Like I said, I don't think people understand the severity of this conversation. So I'm gonna just be quiet. But that's what Chief just said is something that winners do, for real.
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to add this example for Dietrich. Dietrich, what's your spiritual name?
Obadina.
And what does that mean?
The king brings fire.
Right. You ain't none of that. What you a king of? You ain't got no kingdom.
Mm.
And the most fire you bring is talking.
Mm.
So what is that? So what is that name doing every time it's said?
Well, it's saying something that I'm supposed to be, that based off what I feel, based off what I understand.
Forget the supposed. It's saying something that you will be. When that divination was done for that name, that vision of you doing that was seen. Like, oh, not he's supposed to be. This is what's going to happen. So let's give him this now so he can walk in it. So I'm just using that as the example. All of you who have your spiritual names, that's what it is. It's not where you're at right now. Dietrich ain't got no kingdom, you know. So clearly he will, you know, based on his attributes, he clearly will. So all of you who have those, you know, just think about that. So when we say like, well, okay, like you just said, a lot of people don't realize what I'm doing or what I just did. Maybe they can relate to that a little better. If you have a divine name, put it in that same context. You know, somebody already did that for you.
I remember Sister Tasha and I and the other women on the Monday call were speaking about that, when we were kind of breaking down. She shared her spiritual name, and we were kind of breaking that name down. So, yeah, that's amazing. I also wanted to comment on something that you were saying about the person that left the comment on the video. I remember you saying in another show that when you speak that way, you are speaking to the spirit of that energy. And I think, a lot of us kind of think that spirituality is like this hocus pocus thing. We're supposed to be seeing apparitions and interact with these ghosts and things like that. But like Dietrich was saying too, everything has a spirit. And so when you speak that way, or like she said, you're not compassionate or something, you're speaking to the spirit of, what that person is bringing to you. And so the only way to dissipate that is to, like you said before, in another show, is to shine light on it and to speak directly to it. So I think that too, since we're all deep and conscious and spiritual and everything, we gotta kind of really understand exactly what we're dealing with, or, in real terms, in real life. It's not, a ghost walking down the hall that we're trying to confront. These are real things. We carry these spirits, and some people can see that. And that's what I was going to ask. Like you said that when you speak to Georgette or another client or whatever, you see what they will be, or you can see that, I guess, that potential they have within them. And some of us don't have that vision. So how do you get that vision? Because a lot of us don't see, the kid up the street that's behaving badly or that's breaking into somebody's house or anything. Like when we're confronted with that person, we don't see that higher soul. We don't see the soul of that person, or we don't see that energy within them. We just see what they're doing. So how do you get the vision to see the spirit of what you're dealing with?
Well, everyone wasn't born to be a chief. So some gifts are for some and some will never happen. That's the first thing to understand. That's why collectivism and communitarianism is the key. I'll give you an example. Brother Dietrich said his name, Obadina, means the king brings fire. Yes and no. That's the surface meaning of the name, Brother Dietrich. The deeper meaning of that name is calling on the fathers who bring chaos. It's actually what Obadina means. So there is a need sometimes for the fathers who bring chaos. And then there's a need for other things. Now, we're not all going to have the ability to bring chaos like perhaps Brother Dietrich can. But there's a time and place for that. In the same instance, a chief is one who sits at the hub of a community like Heru and watches what everyone is doing and has an understanding of what people are doing and what they would be best at doing. So that's his job. And he may not be as good at the micro task. That may not be his gift. He may be good at looking more at a macro view of things and dealing with things from that perspective. So everyone has their role. When we need some chaos, when we need the ruckus, basically, you already know that Dietrich has been slated. He brings the ruckus. And then there'll come a time when someone who will bring order will come in for that. And as far as like people being able to gather that on a more subtle level, really everything that I teach brings that. Our new spiritual training brings that. The shows, because it starts to open up different chambers of vision in your head. And I would also advise you to get outside of the English language. You got to really, 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 unless you can understand the backdoor tricks of the English language, which most don't, most probably won't, because it takes a while to learn some of those tricks. It's best to start trying to get your mind to communicate in a language other than this one that is currently framing our perceptual reality. Frame your perceptual reality with the language that speaks more to your physiology and your ethnic origins. You know, we can say little things here and there, hotep, you know, or Santi Sana, or Tikitu, you know, that's cool to have like little phrases here and there, but try to get to a point where you can string small sentences in your mind of other languages. Because then what will happen is, as you start to have that mental conversation, you'll get a different set of images associated with the person. You know, that's one of the biggest things you could do for yourself. The greatest gifts you could do for yourself is to extract yourself out of a dead language. I mean, you're beating a dead horse by trying to really use English to define the activity or the nature of someone. You know, get out of that. Trust me. Just like with Dietrich Obadina. Okay, and I could go deeper than I did on that definition. I mean, we could go for days. But when you say the king who brings fire, I could hit maybe about 4 or 5 angles on that one before I run out. You know, but that Oba by itself, we could play with Oba for a year. Oba, the sound it makes, the way your lips have to move, the fact that it's a shortened form of Obaba, Baba, and Baba is a root of the form of the word that we know as baboon, the baboon. So Baba, baboon, or why the baboon? Well, the baboon was sacred to Tahuti. Who was Tahuti? Tahuti was a Rumula. Like, we could just keep going and going and going and going and going. You see what happens when we remove that limiting framework of that language, you know? So I would say that, but that's why community is necessary. So we're not trying to figure out who these strangers are all the time, but we can sit in collective meetings and discuss them when they come into our village.
I'm glad you touched on the point of language. I had someone ask me recently to break down or ask me, is there something written somewhere of one of the 90 seconds of one of the rituals that you gave in a show that I directed them to? And they were saying that they wrote it down the best that they could, but is it written down somewhere else, or can somebody spell it correctly and break it down and all that kind of stuff? And
no,
this person was saying, you know, that they wanted to be a teacher of African spirituality. And my response to him was to go back and learn the language, or go back and listen to some of the shows where you broke down certain words, so that when you hear them, you'll know what it is, especially if you want to be a teacher of African spirituality, to have something handed to you and spelled out and, you know, written down for you, kind of teach you of the whole experience, especially if you want to teach it to somebody else. You know, like you said, just exploring the language opens up something completely different. You have a completely different experience. And anyway, the Yoruba language is so tonal. Even if you have it written down, I mean, do you know what the accent marks are, you know, telling you what to do? Like, you can still be pronouncing it the wrong way. Yourself of learning those lessons is the wrong way to go about it, especially if you want to be a teacher. You know, so I'm just glad that you brought up the point of learning the language.
Well, everyone is not built to be everything that they think they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're built to be an educator and a curator of these customs, and the mental laziness, you know, can't be a part of your regimen. Yeah. So as soon as I see mental laziness, I lose interest immediately. You know, I lose interest as an educator in working with someone when they want too much. Oh, can you break this down? Like, you should never even ask me to break anything down. There really shouldn't even be any request. You know, I would say that Did you understand anything I said before? Did you understand the previous segments? Everything that's being taught to the audience is being taught for a reason. I know people want to jump around. I want to know about this. You don't know what to know about. I'm telling you what you're supposed to know about. And that's just the truth of it. And once you know about these things that I'm giving you, it will open up your understanding where you won't have to ask those questions. You can figure it out for yourself. But it's just that microwave spirit that we got going on a little bit too much. And that kind of goes back to your earlier pose of the show. Do we secretly hate black people, or do I secretly hate black people? Well, think about how we interact with each other. Is that respect there for scholarship? When we meet someone who's teaching us or, giving us a lot of things for free, where does our mind immediately go? When someone's doing something for free, a lot of times we think they're stupid. We lose respect for them. But you can go on YouTube and look at drones and drones of documentaries that were done on hood street legends. Dudes who say, like Freeway Rick Ross and all these different people who sold all these drugs in the community and killed all these people. Those people are idolized by the larger society, because of what? Because of how they were able to inventively come up with different ways every day to destroy black people. And they're praised and honored.
Scarface, in particular.
Scarface, yeah. I mean, they're not looked at as scumbags. Many of them then turn rapper. It's just some of our standards are off. Or you got like the fake Rick Ross, who was a correctional officer. And he's idolized to a degree. I mean, and maybe because no one's ever been incarcerated and been told to lock in at 10 o'clock. After you was just having a good chess game or having a good conversation and you got a grown man telling you go to bed. If you don't know what that feels like, or to have a CEO go into your mouth and you're behind, looking to see if you're stashing something. So, we could go on with that one, but I'm just saying that a lot of people, for whatever it is that you came here to do, put some effort towards that. Like, I don't need Dietrich to be a teacher. If he tells me his name is Obadina, then let me see you put some effort over there. I need to see a king. And that's for everyone. But whatever it is that you're here to do, put effort into that direction. But if you say you're here to teach, it's got to be a little bit more effort than that. I listened to a show, I wrote it down somewhere. Nah, come on, you got to come a little harder than that. And that's why I will say this. I'm going to share this real quick. I know we're over time. This book that's releasing tomorrow, 14 Keys, someone said to me, I gave someone a free copy, and they said, man, that book is really heavy. And they were saying that even Grasping the Root of Divine Power, which I consider to be my simplest book, but they were like, man, every time I go back to it, I pick up something else. And I was saying that I'm not interested in making my work for everyone. My work is for people who want to dig. So I know that they're short books, but they're very dense books. And if you just run through them quickly, you won't get a tenth of what you were supposed to get. But if you come to it with a sincere heart and saying, man, I'm all feet in, and I'm going to rip this thing apart and learn it inside and out, then one of those little books I write might have you on a 2-3 year mission. That's impressive. When someone's invested at that level, that's impressive. All this other lazy stuff, man, this is the beta stuff that needs to just die off. It needs to fall off the side of a cliff so the rest of us can do what we need to do to get our children back on track.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that. I know you want to close out.
Feedback. Just to give you some feedback on that book, we were discussing it. Some of us that did have a early copy, some have already gone through the book and were ready to discuss it, but a lot of us were still like at the the first part of the book. And I have to say that it is a very heavy book. I mean, I think I read the first page, the first paragraph, like over and over and over and over again, because
that would be the
it's
table
a lot.
of contents.
Well, I mean, the first.
Struggling on the table of contents?
No, the first section of the book. Where the book
I cannot with you right now.
Where the book began. It's like I had to reread that so many times. It was like at first, I read it, and then I was like, wait a minute. I had to go back. I'm like, let me grab a dictionary. And then I had to reread it again, and then I had to go back and reread it with an new mind. So it took a while just for me to get through, that page, and it is a heavy work. Grasping the Roots of Divine Power is a heavy work. It's an easy read, but to really grasp some of the concepts can take a minute. So yeah, we were discussing it in a group, and I was just like, for those that have already gotten through it, I was just like, kind of like, wow. I mean, really? Because it's not an easy read. Yeah.
Zach read it. I gave one to Zach, and he read it very quickly. And I said, "Okay, what did you think?" He said, "Oh man, I read it the day I got it, because I think I gave it to him first." And I said, "What you think?" And he said, "Oh man, Chief, man, I don't understand nothing you be talking about most of the time, man. But I know it's real. I know it's real, brother. But I didn't understand a word of it." So that's a common experience. So of course, I told him, "Go back and read the book until you get it." But
it takes a minute.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback.
But yeah, I just want to encourage everybody, make sure when it releases tomorrow to check that out. It is a heavy read, but just prepare yourselves and get ready for it. I'm gonna try to get in this one last caller that has their hand up. Well, they just dropped. They just put their hand down. Okay, so I won't bring them in. Let me see. I'm gonna try to bring them in anyway. Let's see. 905. 905. Did you have a comment?
Sorry. Hi. Greetings, everyone. I'm actually just calling to. I'm okay, thanks. Yourself?
I'm good. Thank you.
Speaking of the devil.
Pardon? I'm actually calling. Yeah. No, actually, I just wanted to, give thanks for the spirit, the energies that are working, the rituals that were sent out, the unseen words spoken, to really manifest the great work that is taking place. Like even the little snippets for the 14 keys, the lining with the place and the growth that I'm at right now. And I really just wanted to give thanks. And, just keep at it. We can do this. And, that's it.
I want to ask you real quick, Georgette. We lost you on the call on Monday, and we were all kind of concerned and wondering if you were okay. Because I know the previous Monday you were going through something, and the feedback that you got really wasn't probably what you wanted to hear. But I was just wondering, how are you now, and have you thought about some of the things that the other women shared?
I'm fine. And I initially thought that, maybe you would take it I was initially concerned that you would feel or think that I was offended. After all that I've been through with Chief, don't ever think that. But I'm good. It's just actually that time my phone battery died and I couldn't get back into the call. So that was the reason. And then this past Monday, to be quite honest, I had so much going on. I wasn't able to reach out like I wanted to.
Okay, we were just wondering.
Sorry about the noise. Okay. Yeah. No, not at all. I love you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so for those of you on the call, I just want to remind everybody, if you are female and you're new to the information and everything that we're doing, if you want to be a part of it, you can go to anewlifeglobal.org and hit join the community. And you can, Georgette, and make sure you specify in that form that you would like to be a part of the Monday call. And we'll make sure we get the information to you so that you can participate. So And also, if you just want to be a part, if you want to be a part of what we're doing, you can fill out that same form and let us know how you can contribute to what we're doing. Okay. Again, we have 14 keys coming out tomorrow, so make sure that you check for that. You can get more information on it if you check out Chief Ya's page on Facebook. There have been some videos released daily with some wisdom from that book, so make sure you look out for it. I think it'll be sold on Amazon. Is that correct, Chief? Oh, maybe he muted. But I think it's on Amazon.
I'm sorry,
but you can
I muted to not make any noise.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to let them know where they can pick the book up.
Yes, so, it'll be on Amazon, Kindle, the paperback, and towards the ending of this month, I will also be releasing an audiobook version because I know a lot of people don't like to read as much anymore. So, there'll be different versions. They'll all be available via Amazon.
Okay, so make sure you all look out for that. And is it going to be in the Alpha Omega store on Amazon, or do they just type in the title? Okay.
It's going to be on Alpha Omega store once we get everything back up and running. But if you just type in my name or me as an author, I pull up. But under Haru Yuya San Anu, you'll see it. You'll see it in there. So it's already populated on Amazon, so it's up there. If you search for it, you can find it.
Okay. And I also want to say to those of you that are on the call or that are listening, Alpha Omega Store is on Amazon, so you can actually just type in Alpha Omega Store, and all the books that are available and the products will populate. I've gone back on some of you that have purchased some of the classes, and I've put in links to that store for different supplies if you needed incense, sage, things like that. So they are listed in the class that you registered for if you want to find out how you can get some of those some of the things you may need for rituals as well. And we're adding things to the store, as we go along. So make sure you check back for it, and make sure you check for the 14 keys coming out tomorrow. So with that, again, and don't forget to go to seduluhouse.com for all of the classes, including a new spiritual training phase 1, if you would like to sign up for that. Okay, and the classes that I teach on different, spiritual concepts or spiritual components, like working with candles, working with water, meditation, alchemy, and so forth. So until next Tuesday, I'm going to go ahead and close out. We've gone over our time a little bit, but it's been a great show. Thank you all for participating and for your continuing support of the show. We are, I see it growing every strong, and I'm thankful for that. So I just want to say thank you for your contributions. Thank you for calling in. And next time, for those of you that are on the call that may have been a little shy to respond, this is a safe place. Nobody's going to attack you. We're just sharing information and sharing our comments and things so that we can all grow and be better. So, but again, this is not a show where we're just kind of talking and your stuff is just kind of bouncing off the wall. Like, you will get feedback. I know in the social media age, we're kind of used to that, just throwing out certain comments and no one really responds back with any sense or really puts any thought into what you say. But we do hear, and we do on the call that the women have on Monday. So it's not just for show, and it's not just for, just to be blabbing on the radio. I'm not a radio host. So we do it for a reason. So make sure you check out our newlifeglobal.org. Make sure you check out seduluhouse.com. And if you have any questions or comments, or if you have any suggestions for shows, you can send those questions and comments to questions@ournewnations.org. Excuse me. And we'll get make sure we answer the questions. So again, thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.